Brothers and sisters, we'd like to say a few words about loneliness. It comes in 4 flavors of estrangement: from others, from nature, from work, and from ourselves. Let's begin with a few words about our relation to others. Which one of us has a close friend, even one friend, in whom they can confide their innermost fears and aspirations? In all of human history, have people ever been more remote, more isolated, more distant? Witness the silence, the deafening silence of the streets. The streets are so sad. No one speaks, no one talks to one another. How rare it is. A miracle when someone comes up and smiles and says good morning. People are hunched over their cell phones. Even when walking down the sidewalk. Meet the iPhone generation. They are the young Americans born after 1995. They spend more time in front of screens than interacting with one another. They communicate primarily online through social media or text. Is it any wonder that they appear to be paranoid? Danger seems to lurk at every turn in the form of ideas that they can't handle. Let's go on to say a few words about estrangement from nature. We'll start with bugs. Nothing shows as dramatically how far removed we are in that insects throughout the world are declining at a rapid rate. Overall, the total mass of insects is said to be falling by a shocking 2.5% a year. According to an expert, it's very rapid. In 10 years, you will have a quarter less. In 50 years, only half left. And in 100 years, you will have none. Ecosystems, species, wild populations, local varieties and breeds of domesticated plants and animals are shrinking, deteriorating, or vanishing. The essential, interconnected web of life on Earth is getting smaller and increasingly frayed, says Joseph Stiegel, a German biologist and co-chair of a UN-backed report. Let's talk about estrangement from the work we do. Consider a corporate farm where animals are raised in unspeakable conditions of filth and stench in what they call contained animal feeding operations, CAFOs. The animals are but factors of productions. They are but things, and they are treated as such. And then there is hydroponics. Instead of soil, plants and vegetables are raised in chemical soup. And not only that, but they are grown in shipping containers, in sealed warehouses. The only light is artificial light, non-stop, 24 hours a day. The farm has been turned into a factory. The farmer is but a factor of production. It seems to me that work should be an expression of our highest powers of creativity and innovation. And let's go on to talk about the fourth estrangement, and that's from ourselves. The number of deaths of despair is skyrocketing, and this includes deaths from opioid overdoses and from suicides. It's particularly sad that there is a surge in suicides among teenagers and young people. This is altogether so tragic. Moreover, millions of Americans feel themselves unable to face the moral and spiritual poverty of their lives, so they find no escape but into drugs. With millions of Americans on psychiatric drugs, antidepressants, statin drugs, and chemotherapy, it's no exaggeration to say that America is drugged out. The number of overdose deaths from pain medications has increased by more than 300% since 1999. According to the CDC, opioid drugs are killing 33,000 Americans every year. Then there is obesity. More than a third of adults in the US are obese. In just 5 years, this could reach as much as 45%. There have always been obese people, but never in these proportions. We are seeing something entirely without precedent, an epidemic of obesity. In our opinion, it stems from despondency and despair. Never before in American history has there been anything like the epidemic of obesity, the epidemic of depression, the epidemic of opioids, and the epidemic of suicides. This amidst a degree of isolation and loneliness such as never before been seen. Is it any wonder then that the birth rate has plunged to an all-time record low? An image emerges of an America in its 244th year, drugged out and inebriated, with no refuge, nowhere to turn from the all-pervasive loneliness. Social distancing is nothing new. We've always had it. Same thing goes for wearing a mask. It seems to me that social distancing, written large, is a parody of the way we live. So we've said a few words about loneliness from others, from nature, from work, and from ourselves. And at the bottom of it all we believe at the deepest core there is a yearning to get back to vivacious, bubbling, and streaming aliveness. We all know that it is there. We can do it, brothers and sisters. We can get back. We can return. Why not begin by getting together with friends and neighbors and creating an edible schoolyard, a community garden, or a permaculture orchard? Abraham Lincoln said of you, "What greater or equal hope is there in the world?" He went on to prophesy that there will be a rebirth of freedom. I'm convinced that it will happen. I have faith in your ability to rise up amidst this crisis and bring us forward to higher and better days. Your comments are so welcome. Let's hear from you, brothers and sisters. Thank you for the privilege of sharing a few thoughts.